Daniel Jones hands it off left to Barkley. Turns the corner, up the sideline. Barkley still going across midfield. It's a foot race. Fire trying to close him down. Barkley finally shoved out of bounds inside the 25 at the 22-yard line of Tennessee. Jones out of the gun, drops back to throw. Going for the deep ball downfield. He's got Sterling Shepard at the 30. Shepard to the 20. Sterling is back to the 10, to the 5. Touchdown,
Well, we're back again. And joining me today is my go-to for all of my Giants news, Miss Adrianna from the Everything New York Giants podcast. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. So I'll start here with the intro that we just had.
Oh, got me excited.
Yeah. So I'll start here with it. Let's start with Sterling Shepard. So from training camp and everything, how has he looked in training camp?
So I love Shep. From what I have heard from the media who saw him at mini camp, we'll get to see him in person at training camp. I haven't been able to see him yet. They said that he's been running, cutting, he's been out there with all the ones and everything, and he looks like he's healthy and he's ready to go week 1. So I'm really excited about that. What I think is kind of crazy is that there are so many wide receivers on this roster that there could be a possibility that Shep doesn't make the cut. I feel like that's not going to happen, but I've never seen this team with this many wide receivers and this type of competition. So it's going to be good competition. Shep obviously has a lot going for him. He knows the offense. He's got good communication with Jones. So I'm excited to see what he can do, but I think we're going to see him, assuming he makes the team, we're going to see him week 1.
So because I was doing a little research before we got on and everything. So with all of the additions, like the Jamison Crowders and different things like that, and also the drafting of Hyatt, who out of all of the receivers that were brought in, if it's not Shepard, who do we think may be the odd man out? At least so far. I know it's still early.
Yeah, I'm assuming they keep 6 wide receivers. So if that happens, Hyatt is staying, Slayton is staying, Hodgins is staying, and who am I missing?
Robinson?
I do this every time. Wandale's going to start on the PUP list. So I think we're going to have an extra spot for him because he's not going to be ready. But I have to look at this list of wide receivers because there's so many. I keep forgetting them.
What about
Hyatt, maybe it's
Campbell?
Shep.
Paris
Campbell. Yes. So I think if it's not Shep, it's Jamison Crowder and Colin Johnson. Those are going to be my 2 predictions because Colin Johnson knows the offense. He's familiar with Jones. He could be a big red zone target. And he's not going to have to battle out the competition for the slot position, which I think someone like Shep is going to have to do when you already have guys like Paris Campbell, Wan'Dale Robinson, and Jalen Hyatt. So if it's not Shep, I think those 2 are my prediction. Although I love Shep and I want him to be a Giant forever. He is the best.
Okay. So how about Hodgins? Because, I've listened to your daily updates and things like that. How has Hodgins looked in mini camp and OTAs and all that?
I love Hodgins. He's one of the guys that I'm most excited about this year because the fact that he came in last year and made an impact right away, I can only imagine that year 2 for him, just like a lot of people on this team, their second year in the system, I think that we're going to see a big jump forward. I think Hodgins is going to be that guy. He can play the slot if he has to, but I don't think he's going to play much of that. He's better on the outside. He's a big red zone target. Him and Jones have already really forged that connection. So I think he's been looking great from what I've seen. He's got good hands. He can run. He's got speed, good route runner. I think we're going to see a big year out of Isaiah Hodgins this year. What do
Okay.
you think?
I think so. I like how he came on towards the end of the season and
Mhm.
finally getting his chance. And I was impressed. I mean, and since you asked that, I will ask this: since we don't have a true number one, excluding maybe Waller, who
Mm.
who do you see possibly being our true number one, or do we just have a bunch of pieces that just fit well together, and we won't have a true number one all season?
Mm. So I'm kind of torn on this because I originally was thinking that with the addition of Waller, with Daniel Bellinger, and with all of these other wide receivers, that maybe everyone is going to have an even shot at getting the ball.
Okay.
But from what I heard from minicamp is Paris Campbell really has shown to be one of the biggest targets so far for Jones. So
Okay.
hearing that from some of the beat writers made me feel like maybe he's going to be our number one. And I know that, people are a little worried about the health, but we could say that about probably every player on this team at this point. So it is what it is. I'm going into it assuming and feeling that all of these players are going to be healthy. So if that's the case, I think that Paris could emerge as the number one.
Okay. And then we're going to move on from the receivers because I could talk about the receivers all day.
There's
But
so much to talk about.
but with Slayton, I haven't heard anything bad and I haven't heard anything good. It just seems like he's there doing, I guess, what he needs to do. But
Mhm.
how has he looked, and like what has the word been around camp and things, with Slayton?
So I will say the same. I haven't heard anything negative coming out about him, which I think is always a good sign. I did see a couple of the beat writers were live tweeting from camp. So I did see a couple tweets that said, Jones and Slayton had that connection going again. Slayton was a big red zone target for him, big deep ball threat. So I think we're going to see a lot of Slayton again. My biggest concern with Slayton is what it has been from day one is the drops.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it is. I don't know if there's a way to fix it or make it better or improve upon it. But I still think that he is always going to be a big target for Jones. I just think that connection that they have, and I think Jones relies on him in the sense that he feels confident in his route running abilities. He knows he's fast. He knows he can beat other cornerbacks. So I think we're still going to see a lot of Slayton. Like whether or not we get a little nervous that he's going to catch the ball, I think we're still just going to see him out there a lot. I just hope that I don't know if it's a mental thing or what, but I just hope that it can be improved upon a little bit this year.
And what do they call it in baseball? The yips. That's what.
Yes, that's it.
So before we jump off the receiver, so what about Hyatt? How has he looked, and how are the writers and everyone, or how are you feeling about Hyatt?
Okay, I'm glad you brought this up because I don't know who it was, someone posted on Twitter during minicamp that he was in with the threes versus in with the ones. And I think the expectation for fans probably was that he was a third round draft pick. He's probably going to be used quite a lot in this offense. So he should be in with the ones. But the reality of that is that he's a rookie. He does not know the playbook yet. He's going up against guys like Colin Johnson and Isaiah Hodgins and Sterling Shepard. And, if Wandale's healthy, he's going to go against him. These guys that are not rookies anymore, they know the system. They don't have to work on the communication. They don't have to work on any of the new learnings that rookies have to deal with. So I would say there should be no concern about Jalin Hyatt. We are 100% going to see him on the field this year. He's learning. He's going to be fine. I am sure by the time the end of training camp comes around, he's going to be in there with the twos and the ones. Maybe he's not going to be in there with the ones on every snap, but we're definitely going to see him. And I think people kind of panicked, like, oh my God, why is he not with the ones? He was a 3rd-round pick and blah, 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 and whatever. And I get it, but I think people just need to think through it, right? Like, he doesn't know the offense.
Yeah.
Of course you can't put him out there with the ones when he doesn't know what the heck they're doing. So I think people got to calm down a little bit and give the kid a little bit of time.
Okay, so then let's talk about Danny Dimes. How has he looked? And I'll say going into year 2 in this offense, and from what you've seen and been hearing about Daniel Jones, how has he looked?
So the biggest thing that I have noticed from the social media that I've seen from the Giants and from what the beat writers have posted is that he seems more at ease.
Okay.
And I think up until this point, for good reason, right? He's felt like he has had to prove everything to everyone. He's had to prove it to Dable and to Shane because they didn't pick up the 5th-year option. He's had to prove it to the fans. He's probably felt like he's had to prove it to his teammates that, he's a hard worker, but he's not, maybe at the level that everyone expected or wanted him to be at. And I think because of the way that last season went and the contract signing and the belief and the support of people in the building and outside of the building, he finally feels like he's in a place to succeed. Okay. And I think that can make a world of a difference for someone like him. I mean, when you feel like the media hates you and the fans are pissed that you're their quarterback, like, I am sure that has taken a toll on him. It would take a toll on me, and I'm sure anyone, right? Like to feel like every day you're working your butt off, doing the best that you can, and you're not getting anywhere. I mean, it's gotta feel awful. So that, and then the fact that he seems a lot more confident, I think are the 2 things that maybe as fans we haven't seen from him. And one of the beat writers that I particularly love is Chris Visignano from the Giant Insider. He always keeps it real. He's, not the first one trying to get headlines out there and clickbait and that type of stuff. So I really trust what he has to say. And, he said in the past that Daniel has been very, I don't want to say shy, but maybe like a little closed off when it comes to the media. He has some walls up. And again, for good reason, they have literally trash talked the poor guy for 4 years. So again, I don't blame him for any of that. But Chris said that, he's noticed that he's cracking more jokes. He seems more at ease when he's at the press conferences. He's a little more lighthearted in his answers. And I think it just all goes back to the fact that he finally feels like he's in a good place. Mm-hmm. So I know there were a lot of people who maybe weren't thrilled about the deal and felt like he got overpaid and whatever. And the only thing I can say about that is that it's too soon to say. Let's see how the season goes. But from what I've seen thus far in this offseason, I really feel like he's going to be a top 10 quarterback this year. And I feel like he's just going to go above and beyond. We already know that he works his butt off all the time. He's the first one in the building. He's the last one to leave, just like Eli. He's got that hardworking mentality, and we haven't seen that from all the quarterbacks in the league. No. So, you didn't see it from Zach Wilson and from Kyler Murray and whatever. And I just think that that's going to be one of the reasons why he really has a great year this year. But I think the other side of it is he just feels really confident in himself. The coaching staff feels confident in him, which I think we can all probably agree that maybe the previous coaching staff didn't really feel like that. So I don't know. I just, and maybe I'm too optimistic, but I just feel like we have to give him the benefit of the doubt at this point that the second year in this system is only going to get better. And if it doesn't, then it doesn't. But until then, I am on the DJ is going to succeed this year.
So
what do you think? Are you on board too?
I'm fully on board. I mean, because it took me a while to, and I even hate to talk about the Cowboys, but I look at it from this because somebody that I know posted something today and they were saying how, Dak Prescott and Daniel Jones were overpaid. And I said, they're overpaid, I guess, if you want to look at it in the grand scheme of everything. I said, but considering, like you said, with the Kyler Murray situation, Trey Lance, if you want to throw Trey Lance in there, and even Zach Wilson, said we could end up saying, all right, he's not it, and then move on to another quarterback and end up in a worse position. So I mean, we did what we had to do, including with Dak Prescott, because like I said, I'm in the same camp with you. I'm not impressed with Dak Prescott, but what other option do you have when quarterback isn't a sure thing?
Yes,
and is one of those positions that, not saying they all hit all of the first rounders, but it's not like running backs where you could pick up a running back in the 7th round or 6th round and they could turn out to be a diamond in the rough. Quarterbacks are a little different when it comes to that.
Yes. And that was my biggest argument with people who said, I would have rather them not re-sign Jones and pick up a rookie quarterback. And my argument was, at the end of the day, you don't know what you're getting with a rookie quarterback. So you're willing to sacrifice the last year of success that we had, this team that had mid-level talent at best, but still won a playoff game and went above and beyond the X's and O's that anyone had ever predicted to them. You're willing to take all of that, throw it away and say, okay, I'm ready to take a step backward just because I think Daniel Jones had a really bad first 3-4 years in the league. So just because he had one good year, I want to throw it all away. Like that, you're willing to start over with a rookie quarterback who you could invest 2, 3, 4 years in. Like that's what these rookie contracts are. You invest 2, 3, 4 years only to find out maybe he's not that great.
Yeah.
Like then we're starting all over again 4 years from now. Like I would rather give Jones the chance. He's got 2 years really to prove it to us and say we can win a Super Bowl with him as our quarterback. And if he doesn't 2 years from now, then at least we've advanced our offense. We've advanced our defense. We've brought in higher level talent in all these other positions that at that point, then all we need in theory is a quarterback to take us to the next level.
Yeah, I think a lot of people forget that, as great as a lot of these quarterbacks look in college, you still have your Ryan Leafs, your Achilles Smiths, and different quarterback, Jamarcus Russell, the quarterbacks like that. So it's just like, hold on to what you have, progress, help them progress to the level that you and we want them to be at. Because again, if we start all over, we could be wasting Wan'Dale Robinson's prime, Hodgins, Waller. You bring in all of these pieces, and if you don't have the right quarterback in there, we spent all of this money to do nothing, and then we still have to start over, dump this quarterback in 2 to 3 years, and start from the ground up again.
Exactly.
So let's talk about the defense. How has the defense looked so far?
So to me, when you look at the offense versus the defense has some bigger question marks. Okay. And I think we've got a lot of good talent, especially in a lot of the positions, but there are still a lot of question marks. We know that Xavier McKinney is starting safety number 1, but with the loss of Julian Love, we don't really know who the other starting safety is going to be. Is it going to be Bobby McCain, who's a veteran, has a lot of experience in this league, or is it going to be Dane Belton, who is only his 2nd year in the league? He dealt with an injury last year, but it's his 2nd year in the system. He's still learning. We could say the same thing for cornerback. Is Tay Adams, a rookie, going to end up playing opposite of Dory Jackson? I think it's probably going to end up being like that. We don't really know. And the same thing for linebacker. We know we got Bobby Okereke. He's going to be our number 1. But is Darian Beavers or Micah McFadden, are one of them going to step up and play opposite him in the second inside linebacker role? So I don't know. I think the talent is there. I think the big question mark is a lot of the talent is young. So how are they going to develop this year quickly enough to be able to, make plays, stop the run, not give up huge plays down the line? So I don't know. It's going to be very interesting.
So
I would say I'm probably a little more worried about certain aspects of the defense than I am at all with the offense.
now is that concern because it's a Wink Martindale defense, and because of the way that he schemes and his defense? Is it because you're unsure of how these players on the defensive side, how they're going to fit into his scheme, or are you worried that we may have talents at certain spots but not enough in the, I guess, the backup spots? Because I think our front four, front five, our front four, I think they're going to be fine, but it's
Yes.
everything behind them. So is it more worried because of Wink's scheme, or is it more because of the talent?
I think it's a little bit of both, because we know that Wink's scheme a lot of the time is going to leave the cornerbacks on an island. And we all trust Adoree Jackson. I'm not worried about him for a second. But what these teams are going to do is, knowing that, is they're going to put all their focus on Tay Banks. So how is that going to be able to translate for him in the NFL? Like, we know that Wink is going to blitz, and that's fine. But is Tay going to be able to step up like Adoree? And Adoree's been in the league a long time. Like, Tay is not going to become Adoree Jackson overnight. But is he going to be able to, make some big plays and have good coverage and, just be able to prevent some of those big plays that have killed us in the past? And we could say the same thing for the linebacker position. Like, last year, we could not stop the run for the life of us. Why is Kayvon Thibodeau, our edge rusher, him and Julian Love made most of the tackles last year, and now Julian Love is off the team. So, we can't rely on Kayvon to rush the passer and then also stop the run. It's a little too much on one guy. So, we know Bobby Okereke, we know his skill set. He's going to be great at that. But, what about the other linebackers? I don't know. And I think the question mark there is the youth, is the lack of experience thus far. I trust the coaching staff to develop these players, but when someone like Darian Beavers missed majority of the season last year, how quickly is he going to really evolve this year into a strong linebacker who can make tackles and run the length of the field? But that's a big question mark.
So I'll ask this question, then I'll come back around. So with the rookies, we talked about Hyatt, we talked about Banks. So with the other rookies, I'll ask about all the rookies, who has surprised you the most out of the rookies so far?
Ooh, that's a good question. I've heard a lot of good things about Eric Gray. And I don't think this has anything to do with Saquon. You can never have too many running backs. It's an injury-prone position. We're always going to need someone capable in that spot. But I didn't know a lot about him going into the draft. And I think we could say the same about probably all the guys who were picked in like the 7th round. But we heard about the Deuce Vaughns and the Bijan Robinsons and whoever, but maybe not so much about the Eric Grays of the world. And from everything that I've heard about him so far, it seems like he's going to be a really good addition to this offense. He's a strong runner. He's a big dude. Like, he's got quads like Saquon. Like, I saw a picture of his legs and I was like he could be a Saquon number 2. I don't think he has the explosiveness of Saquon, but he does have pass catching ability. I believe he's a little bit of a blocker, so we might see him involved in that a little bit. But I think he's overall a more versatile back than I expected him to be. And I think that's why I've been pleasantly surprised with all of the things that I've heard about him coming out of camp, that there's a lot of talk that we're probably going to see him on the field this year. And, obviously we're going to see Saquon and we're going to see Matt Breida, but I think that, he might be a good 3rd down back. We could see him on those 3rd and 2s, 3rd and 3s, when we just need a quick jolt up the middle or something like that. So I'm excited about him, and running back has never been like, one of my favorite positions, but I do think that Eric Gray is going to be someone that maybe surprises a lot of us.
So what about the center Schmidt? Is that his name? So
Yes.
how has he been? Because I know that's not a sexy or glamorous position.
Mhm.
So how
It's
has
so true. What I think is funny is I think for Giants fans, it has become a glamorous position. Like all of us are obsessed with the O-line. And, I said this to Bobby Johnson, who's the offensive line coach, when I interviewed him for my podcast, and I said, we as fans, we have watched the offensive line deteriorate for years. And it's been so frustrating because we watch other teams in our division. We watch the Cowboys. We watch the Eagles. Even the Commanders don't have a terrible offensive line. So we're watching all of these other teams and saying, why does it seem like almost everyone else can get it together for the O-line and we can't? And I think that's why you don't really hear Eagles fans say they're excited about their offensive line. Like it's just us because we've been scarred. We've had such a bad line that now we're like, yes, we got a center. He is going to be our savior this year. But Bobby Johnson had wonderful things to say about him. And he said that, they went out to dinner during the draft process or during the college visits, and they were going through different scenarios and talking through a bunch of different things. And Bobby said to him at one point, you don't have a notepad, like should you be taking notes? And he said, no, coach, I got it. And he said that stuck with him a lot, that he felt like he's a good listener, a good communicator, and he catches on to things quickly. And he also said that he's been a fast learner. And one of the examples that he gave was during OTAs. He said, we're throwing a lot at these guys. They're coming into the NFL and they're learning all about life in the NFL. And then on top of learning the system and the scheme and this and that. So there's a lot of learning going on. And he said, within the first day of rookie mini camp to, I think it was day 2 or day 3, however many days it was, that he could already see a difference in day 1 through day 3 of John Michael Schmitz's improvement. So to me, that says a lot that he's going to be able to catch on and be a strong center for us, and he's going to succeed. Obviously, he's not going to be perfect out of the gate, and I'm sure he's going to have some issues and some mistakes, but he is someone who's played center his whole career. He has done all of the play calling, which a lot of the centers that we've been working with and piecemealing into the position over the last couple of years haven't done that. So I think he's already kind of walking into the scenario of being the center of this line with a lot of benefits that our last couple centers haven't had. So he's another guy that I'm really excited about. And something else that they mentioned was that he's one of those like nasty players on the field. And we saw that in Nick Gates.
Yeah.
And I love that. That's what I want to see from a center. I want to see him stand up for Jones. I want to see him get involved if he's got to get involved. Like, I want to know that he's going to be out there protecting our quarterback. And I really feel strongly that he's going to do that.
So is it safe to say that he's going to be our day 1 starter, or do you think they kind of try to work him in maybe like the second game? He may get some playing time, but do you think they start him from day 1 or try to work him in?
I think so. So from what I've heard from minicamp is that they did rotate him and I think Ben Bredesen. They were rotating at center, but I in no world do I see Ben Bredesen as our starting center week 1. I just don't think it's happening, especially against the Cowboys. And I know that, you could make the argument that, well, he's a rookie and, having John Michael Schmitz out there against the Cowboys on Sunday Night Football, like, is that going to be a disaster? But he's got to learn at some point, and he's going to go up against Dexter and Leo every day in practice. That is going to be really good experience for him. And, I just can't imagine him not being a starter. Like, to me, he's got to learn at some point, get him in there week 1. And he's got to learn by fire, like Andrew Thomas, like Evan Neal, like all of these other guys did. So I will be absolutely shocked if he's not starting week 1.
So for the rest of the offensive line, are they looking like and it's still mini camp OTAs and everything, but are they looking like a cohesive unit, or is it still like, all right, we may need a piece here or there? How's the line looking?
So from what I think we have the line figured out. We've got John Michael Schmitz at center. We've got Bredesen and Glowinski at guards. And then we've got Neal and Thomas at tackles. I think that's what it's going to end up being. I think that we're still going to see a rotation at the guards because we still have guys like Joshua Zudu who didn't play a lot, that the coaching staff is very high on. Even someone like Shane Lemieux, who we haven't seen a lot of, he's really injury prone. I don't know how much we will see of him. But I think if I had to bet, I would bet today on those guys being the starting five. And then we'll see if they add in some sort of that guard rotation. But I feel pretty confident that the center and the tackles are pretty set in stone.
And I know people will listen to this interview and ask, how come we didn't talk about Saquon? I purposely left it out. I didn't want to turn it into the Saquon segment. But what are your feelings on the latest developments, if there are any, with Saquan Barkley?
Saquon is very smart, and I think he knows what he's doing. I think his agent has maybe been a little bit of a pain in the butt. That's what the agent is there for. But I think he's too smart to sit out. And I think that when he had that interview at his camp and he mentioned sitting out, he used that as leverage. At the end of the day, because of the way the running back market is right now, he has no leverage on this team or any other team. When you have guys like Zeke Elliott, now Dalvin Cook, Leonard Fournette, and Kareem Hunt, you've got all these really good running backs that are available. And Saquon might be the best of the five of them. He might be, the same level as Dalvin Cook, whatever people want to say, and we can look at stats and argue about it, whatever. But, the reality is that he's not going to get the guaranteed money. If he doesn't get it from the Giants, he's not getting it from somewhere else. And I think that him and his agent know that. And I think that's why he's not going to sit out. He knows better than that. He's turning 27. It's not helping his career. There's no benefit to him to do that. And in my opinion, the slight benefit is that maybe he sits out week 1 and week 2 and we can't run the ball and we lose both games. Then maybe Saquon has the opportunity to say, well, I told you so. And then they work out a deal. But I still just don't see that happening. They've got 20 days to figure it out, but I think that they're going to work out a long-term deal. I think it's obvious that he wants to stay. I think it's obvious that the Giants want him to stay. And I think there just has to be a little more sacrifice. Okay. From what I'm hearing, Saquon's agent is not budging on anything, and she hasn't really budged. So I don't know. I want him to get his money. I think he deserves it. I think he's the face of this franchise, and I will be devastated to see him in another team's uniform if that's what happens. But I just don't see it. I don't see it happening. And I think they're going to figure it out. I think he's probably going to sign a 2 to 3 year deal, maybe with the option for the 4th year. And the guaranteed money is going to be somewhere around, maybe this year, let's say it's 11 million because it's more than what the franchise tag is. Next year, the franchise tag is going to go up to almost 14 million. So maybe they, can guarantee him 13 and a half, which would be right about that. I think it's 13.79 or something. But if guys like Dalvin Cook and Zeke, who were in the top 5 previously paid running backs, if they don't get that kind of money, then the franchise tag amount for next year is going to go down. So there's a lot of hypotheticals in this. I just think at the very least, he signs the tag. I don't think he's sitting out. I don't think he's going to play on another team. I think if he doesn't sign a long-term deal, he's signing the tag.
Okay. I mean,
what do you think?
I hope he comes back because again, we know that while running backs may seem to be a dime a dozen, it's all about fit. So
Yeah.
we can bring in Dalvin Cook, we could bring in Kareem Hunt, but there's no guarantee that they will fit. Saquon knows the system. It's just a
Mhm.
matter of, like I said, getting the contract signed, getting him into camp, and getting this thing going because I I love all of the moves that they've made, considering, Reese and, previous regime and all of that. I like everything that they've done. This regime has done so far. And
Mhm.
and I really think he is a big part of it. And I can't wait for them to get him in and get this thing going. Um, so my next question for you then, and I know this doesn't matter because I've been arguing this all day. What are your feelings on the power rankings?
I kind of hate them. Like I feel the way about those as I feel about the strength of schedule, because the strength of schedule right now is BS. Because I think the worst part about it is the travel. Sure. I think that probably will affect, and if the Giants lose some games, you can blame it on that. Sure. But if someone, if Daniel Jones or Aaron Rodgers or whatever other quarterbacks we play, Brock Purdy or Trey Lance, like if any of those people get injured in week 1, week 2, week 3, Dak Prescott week 1, if he goes out in the first quarter, that game immediately changes. So if people are going into week 1 and saying the Cowboys are going to win, they have XYZ, they're ranked higher because of their talent and blah, 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 blah. Dak goes out first quarter, it's a whole new game, and all of that goes out the window. So I think it's the same thing with the power rankings. Like, sure, you can rank people based on their previous talent. You can talk about what these rookies did in college, but no one knows how they're going to make it to the NFL. So I don't know. I think it's kind of BS. Let's play some football first. And then after week 1, then you can give me some power rankings, PFF, on after you've seen this team on the field.
So
I don't even, what are the Giants ranked?
I didn't see it because everything that I'm seeing, they're just showing. I've just seen the top 10, and
Okay.
and everybody, the Giants aren't in the top 10, and it's just like, well, I say for real Giants fans, people that know football, I say for us, we don't care about the power rankings. It's just about making the playoffs and going as far as we can.
Yes.
Because my next question for you then is, we're going to talk, about little brother the Jets. How I don't understand how they went from what they were last year, and I'm a huge Aaron Rodgers fan, but I don't understand how they go from that to, I think they were number 5 or number 6 in the power rankings. And I said,
yeah, now they're going to the Super Bowl too, right?
I don't.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts or feelings on that? That I do understand that having a quarterback, a Hall of Fame quarterback in your system can change things. But I told all of the Jets fans that I know, I said, well, you have to look at his struggles last year. He brought the rookie receivers and different things like that. Not all of the receivers were rookies, but being brought into a new team, a new system, I don't see them making that huge of a leap from where they were last year to all of a sudden they're going to the Super Bowl because they have Aaron Rodgers.
Yes, I agree with that. I think that's an absolute absurd misjudgment to say that all of a sudden they're a Super Bowl team. What I will say is that from what I saw, and I watched a lot of those Jets games in the second half of the year when they kind of fell off, and I think they lost like 7 games in a row or something. It looked like a lot of it was on the quarterback.
Okay.
Mistakes, missed throws, missed opportunities, interceptions, just bad play. They couldn't string together any offensive production. So if you look at that, then you can say, well, yes, in theory, bringing in Aaron Rodgers solves that first problem, right? But they still made some changes to the team. They have young rookies coming in that they don't know how they're going to prepare. Obviously, they have Sauce Gardner. We know they have a good defense. But I think the thing also that a lot of people forget, and I think the Jets are a very good team, and I think they're going to make the playoffs this year. Like, I really think that about them. I mean, are they going to go to the Super Bowl? I don't know, but I think they are a playoff caliber team based on talent. You could also base that a lot on the coaching. How is Rob Saleh going to do in year 2? We don't know. But I think people forget that their entire division got a lot better.
Yeah.
They're now going against a really good Miami team. They're going a really good Bills team. Bill Belichick is the best of the best. Mac Jones, sure, has some question marks around him, but they did a lot of work on that defense, and it's going to be a lot better this year. So if their offense can bring some production, I mean, the Jets are going to play really hard teams twice a year, and that's almost half their schedule. So I don't know. I think they're going to be good, but I think it's a leap to say that all of a sudden, because they have Aaron Rodgers, they're going to be a Super Bowl team. And we know that Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers, but like you said, last year, he was not the Aaron Rodgers that we have seen for years and years. So, you know, we don't know what he's really going to look like this year. Is his age going to be a factor all of a sudden? And again, if he gets injured week 2, kiss goodbye that season, because you're going right back to Zach Wilson. Is anyone on the Jets going to feel really good about that team being a Super Bowl team if, God forbid, Aaron Rodgers gets injured? I mean, you have to consider these things, right? So I don't know. I just think it's absolutely insane to say.
So my last 2 things before I get you out of here. So realistically, and like I said, we can look at it however we want, being Giants fans. But first question is, where do you see us, and I know it's all on paper, where do you see us finishing in the division? And do you have a prediction for our overall schedule?
Okay, so this also is what angers me about Cowboys fans. And I will give Eagles fans a little bit of credit. Most of them pay a little bit of attention. I think a lot of Cowboys fans are bandwagon fans and they have no idea what's going on. So for Cowboys fans to say that they automatically are going to get second place in the division, I'm like, let's speak some facts to you for a second. You lost your number 1 running back. You lost your number 2 running back, who you don't know is going to be healthy. So you're going to base your entire run game right now on a rookie quarterback, on a cornerback. Okay. You have Dak Prescott, who's a turnover machine. You have Jerry Jones, who can't get his head out of his butt and has no idea how to run a winning franchise. And then you lost your offensive coordinator. So like, why do you all of a sudden get the title of second in the NFC East when all of these things have happened? So anyway, I think the Giants I say that because I think the Giants end up second place in the NFC East. I think that they can beat the Cowboys 100%, and I think that they will beat the Commanders. I think they will split with the Eagles. I'm being a little bit optimistic here because the Eagles had some changes to their roster and their coaching staff too, and I think that's going to affect them. The reality is they still have more talent than we do, but as we saw last year, maybe talent isn't everything. We could play above our talent level until we could play the Eagles. So, you know, we need to see how they go against the Eagles this year, but I think that the Giants can absolutely be second place. I think that if they are completely healthy, that they can end the season 11-6 and in the playoffs. If I'm being really optimistic, I'm going to say they go 12-5, but I feel like that might be a little too much of a jump from last year.
I will take it. I will definitely take it. So can you let the people know where they can find you, where they can find your podcast, where they can find you on social media?
Yes. So I am at New York Giants Fangirl on Instagram and TikTok, and I post on there almost every day. Today I'm doing a Q&A on Instagram, so I'm really active on there. If anyone wants to talk Giants, join me. Sometimes I talk about other things like the concert I went to over the weekend. And my podcast is called Everything New York Giants. It's on YouTube and then all of the podcast channels. So you can just search it in the Apple or Spotify store, or if you go to my Instagram, it's linked right in the bio. It's very easy to find.
And last thing before you go, because I heard you mention it. So has there been any update about the people that passed that were taken out of the concert, the 12 people or so that you were talking?
No, I haven't heard anything else about that. And it makes, you know what, I should probably see if I haven't really Googled it to find out any information. I just knew about it from the security guard that day. But I need to look into it because it was very scary. And last year we went to Dead and Company 2 at Citi Field, and the night that we were there, we didn't even know about this until the next day when my dad told me about it. Someone, I believe, was doing some sort of drugs. They said that he might have been doing mushrooms or acid or something, and might have been hallucinating or something. He jumped off one of the outside railings into the parking lot.
Oh, wow.
And died.
Oof.
So yeah, like very scary. So I'll say it here too, if you don't follow on Instagram, but please be careful at festivals, concerts this summer. It is not the 60s. It's not the 70s. The drugs are very different and it's very scary these days. The 12 people that we just mentioned took mushrooms from a stranger at a concert and they all passed out and had to be taken to the hospital. And like we said, I don't even know if they're okay. I'm assuming and hoping that they are, but please stay hydrated and don't take drugs from strangers. It's not worth it. I promise you.
Most definitely. Well, Adrianna, thank you again so much. And like I said in the beginning, you all please check her out. This is where I get all of my Giants news from. And it is very, very good and effective news. So Adrianna, again,
Thank you so much.
And I will see you again.
Definitely. Thank you for having me.
All right, no problem. Thank you.